The housing issue throughout Africa, but specifically South Africa, it's one of changing the historic lifestyle and way of life of a people. How do you bring them towards the inner cities, urbanization, the density that inner cities need without ostracizing the people, the way of life, the culture of Africans? So it's trying to find that balance between urbanization without losing our Ubuntu Africanism. It's more about building communities, building, I think, little villages, rather than a case of just providing housing. Housing to me is a very physical asset. It's just a structure. But when you build a community, you provide a way of life, you kind of deliver a way that families can integrate with the people around them, with families around them. And you try to build it in such a way that the convenience of schools, healthcare, and places of work and transport are very close by. It's integrating the African village, the kraal feel to it, in terms of saying that you need the bigger houses, smaller houses, the rental, different options, different income groups, different people. So without really saying that you want to provide wide-scale housing, it's kind of saying how do you provide housing solutions that are relevant to the context of the city, the people, and around them. So it's really saying that the solution for a Joburg versus the solution for Port Elizabeth and Durban is very different. The backlog in terms of housing is growing far faster than actual delivery. So within that, you either have to change settlement patterns of people or you have to scale up delivery on a serious level. So within that, it needs to be more of a joint effort between government, private sector. It can't just be a case of saying this is government solution, this is private sector solution. Ultimately, we're both building towards the same thing, and we need to make sure that the solution is integrated to benefit both sides of the fence. Government needs to provide legislation funding that makes it conducive for delivery housing. And construction sector needs to make sure that they provide the efficiencies in terms of technology, innovation, construction mechanisms, methods, to ensure that delivery is sustainable and it's actually of a quality basis and at a large enough scale. So it almost needs to look at that on an annual basis between the state and private sector. There needs to be somewhere close to 200,000 housing opportunities delivered. The whole element around, capitalism with a conscience, I believe is something that needs to actually flow through any business, not specifically construction sector, but in this sector specifically. What needs to happen is that if everybody drew a line, as in like the businesses, that this is how I operate, this is how I want people to treat me, to look at me, and this is really the legacy I want to leave as a CEO, as a company, as a professional. And the issue now is that some companies do it, some companies don't. Some people will look at actually bribes and everything else, other companies don't. And the ones that don't feel they get left out in the tender process. So I think to a certain state, there has to be a joint forum, a joint approach within business to say that ultimately the legacy that we're leaving behind, it's not just the money in the houses. It's also just how you want to be remembered as a company, as a person. So for me, it's really saying that how do you get that across to all the companies who almost kind of switch over on the same day? Because to me, it needs to be a concerted effort and a collective effort. If half the sector does it and the other half don't, then there's an issue. But if majority of the sector does it, and everybody knows that within the sector, this is how we operate, these are the rules, and that's it, and everyone goes through on merit, then I think that will drop less. But I think the whole element around Ubuntu, where you're knowing who you're actually building this house for. It's not about the rands and cents that you get. It's actually about the beneficiary at the end of the day. You make sure that you keep your costs as low as possible. You're thinking about how can you deliver the best product at the best price that's fair to you and your shareholders, but also, most importantly, fair to the government as well in terms of what they're paying. So it's that element of we're in this together. And ultimately, whether this country succeeds or doesn't, we're all going to actually benefit or be harmed the same way. So it's really kind of thinking how you can operate today to ensure your future, downstream.